Hello. Sorry it's taken so long for this episode to come out, but I had a COVID-19 scare last week. I had a few nasty symptoms. I called up 111, talked to a doctor, and he recommended that I go for a COVID-19 test the following day at Charlton Athletic Football Club. And the night before, I found it very hard to sleep, as you would do when you have to face a life-changing test the next day. And in this particular case, I couldn't even do last-minute revision to make me feel calmer. And because I couldn't sleep, I got up and I went on the internet and I looked at the chances that I might have COVID-19. And it turns out it was 1 in 1,000. Not that reassuring. Even less reassuring when I also realised that 1 in 1,000 is exactly the chance that any American black male might be killed by US law enforcement over his lifetime. So that's another reason why I won't be spending my holidays stateside anytime soon. And I wasn't even sure what results I wanted from the test. I mean, if I was negative, that's obviously a positive. But if I was positive, that's not wholly negative. I mean, okay, I felt ill, but I didn't feel that bad. And if that was as bad as it was going to be, surely it was worthwhile suffering a little while to get antibody immunity from getting the disease in the future. So the next day, I decided to have an optimistic outlook. So I took my football boots down to Charlton Athletic Football Ground. You never know, I might get a game. And I wouldn't be the first person to go to Charlton and get a positive result. My name is Paul Ricketts. Welcome to me, not live, in London. Keep your temperature rising with 20 top tested tunes to loosen your lockdown. Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. With tracks so totally catchy, they'll put the funk in your antibodies.
And there was that old garden admitting it's not working, and just then it hit me. Somebody turned around and shouted, "Test that tracing that by the white boy. Test that tracing that, all right. Test that tracing that by the white boy. Apple and Google, test that tracing that until you die. Until you die, yeah, till you die."
Get out of self-isolation and invite your chosen one to join you in your love bubble with tracks that put the intimacy into social distancing.
Do I wear this mask forever? Have a drink or meal together? I don't believe it. Take it or leave it. Travel ban because of danger. Average now, don't be a stranger. Can we achieve it? Lockdown make easy. Come a little bit closer, baby. And a mask, let's get it on. 'Cause tonight is the night. 2 meters now one.
And who can forget this great steaming hit?
I am the Prime Minister, baby. And you, they tell me that you're a footballer, maybe. I got more hits than you, but I look after number one. They tell me that you're popular, so watch out, tell your mom. You spin me right round, baby, right round. If you like it, I'll you turn right round. I'll spend my policies, baby, right round. Check my record, 'cause I U-turn right round.
Now that's what I call music, COVID-19. Get it before it's put in quarantine. And for those of you who've not had a COVID-19 test, here's a little rundown. It's not a nice experience. Firstly, I turned up at Charlton Athletic Football Ground. It was full of the army. It was like a scene out of Black Mirror. And secondly, the test itself is unpleasant, especially the bit where you have to put the swab into your mouth and touch your tonsils for 10 seconds without touching your tongue or teeth. It's as hard to say as it is to do. I was constantly retching and gagging. Whereas my partner, she found it a piece of cake. As she said to me, it didn't even touch the sides. And she's talking about the swab here. Anyway, it turns out that I'm negative, and the next day my doctor said it was probably due to me having an allergic reaction to the high pollen count. So it turns out the only fever that shouldn't lead to a test is hay fever. And I still suffer from hay fever, but I've come up with a Trumpian cure. What I do now is I sniff Pledge house polish sprayed into a duster. And it takes years off me every time I do it. It's wonderful. But I don't recommend this to anyone to do at home. I do recommend that you do it in the garden or any outdoor area. Boris Johnson has given a detailed demonstration of his roadmap to lead Britain through the pandemic. Welcome to highlights of UK government's Corona update with added crowd noise. I'm Alan Stewart, and beside me, sat over 1 metre away, is political scientist and Anfield legend Dick Sibley. Alright, let's have a look at the teams. Representing the UK government, up front, it's BJ Boris Johnson. He's done well to come back from injury. On the right flank, it's Sir Paddy Vallance. And a big surprise, replacing the dropped Professor Chris Whitty is Professor Peter Horby. Good solid replacement. Representing the UK media, up front, it's the blonde bombshell Laura Kunsberg. She could play for either side. Flanked by the dazzler himself, Bobby Peston. Watch out. And on the other side, a regional journalist who's just happy to be representing the country. Hope he's not out of his depth there, Alan. So what do you reckon then, Dick? Well, it's a strong team for the UK government. They're bringing out all the big guns, BJ's up front. With the UK media, not really got any cutting edge. But with government's ability to score an own goal, you never really know what's going to happen here. And the government team is now coming out. Let battle commence.
Good evening. I'm delighted to be joined today by the Chief Scientific Advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, and by Professor Peter Horby from the University of Oxford's Centre for Tropical Medicine and Global Health. Today, I'm actually going to let them do most of the talking as they have some news to share on a new treatment for coronavirus. But I will start by updating you briefly on the latest data. First slide, please.
We rejoin the action, the score is still 0-0, and Sam Bickerstaff from the Littlehampton Bugle is confronting Boris Johnson. Good afternoon, my question is to the Prime Minister. You've been married 3 times, so you've changed your mind about 2 of those wives. You were a Eurosceptic in the 90s, and then you changed your mind as you were working under David Cameron, and then you changed your mind again. In 1999, you told your boss you wouldn't become an MP, but you changed your mind. In 2004, you published an editorial blaming Liverpool fans for the Hillsborough disaster, and later that year, you were told to change your mind. In 2008, as London Mayor, you promised to give 1/5 of your journalism fees to charity, and you changed your mind. You promised not to close London Underground station offices, but you changed your mind. And during this pandemic, your government has changed its mind on NHS contact tracing app, free school meal vouchers, NHS surcharge fees to non-EU health workers, applying the NHS bereavement scheme to low-paid staff, MPs remote voting in Parliament. So, Prime Minister, my question is this. People don't know what you stand for. So what I want to know is, who do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Well, first of all, I'm not aware of that. Patrick, are you aware of any? I'll have to come back to you on that. It sounds peculiar to me, but we'll certainly look into it.
Oh yeah, that's classic Boris, that. And one of the features of the pandemic has been Boris Johnson's government's ability to make U-turns. The last one being over Marcus Rashford's campaign for free school vouchers to be made available for poor children. And even though Boris has more children than he could possibly name, he was against this. But when he saw how popular Rashford's campaign was, he quickly changed his mind and flipped the decision. Boris Johnson can flip more than Mary Berry on Pancake Day. And we shouldn't be surprised at Boris's ability to change his mind. We've seen him do a 180 during the election and walk into a freezer just to avoid media questions. It's just unusual for a Conservative Prime Minister to make so many U-turns. Margaret Thatcher must be turning in her grave if we all didn't know that that woman wouldn't even do that in the afterlife. I'm not even saying it's a sign of weakness. All I'm saying is that Boris Johnson can make U-turns quicker than a black Hackney cab driver going south of the river. And black Hackney cab is the biggest misnomer in the world, because most of those drivers are not black, and I can tell you by experience they will not take me to Hackney.
Welcome back to Love Island, and Ched and Jess are having that awkward talk about racism.
So like my forefathers were like taken from Africa in ships.
Naked babes.
Now they were like in cloths or something.
Ah, bless.
And like they were enslaved for 400 years, yeah?
OMG, Ched, like that was so intense. It's like totally awesome that you can tell me things like that. Cause if we go exclusive, you need to know. I'll be the one wearing the handcuffs.
That's like sick. Totally sick. And so we've reached the end of this episode, and wait a minute. Sorry, it's the hay fever. Yeah, that's better.